Hi, I am Jessica Manka, host of the Passion to Profit Mastermind Coach Showcase, and we're featuring successful coaches and their stories of transformation from passionate coach to profitable business owner. And today we have with us friends and members of the Passion to Profits Mastermind who are building their path to profitability. I'd like to introduce you to our special guest and coach, Janice Gair of eiADVANTAGE. Janice's passion for capacity building in individuals and organizations led her to become an accredited executive coach, having achieved the professional certified coach designation through the International Coaching Federation. She co-founded eiADVANTAGE with Haley Heslin, PhD, after meeting through their executive coaching certification program in 2015. Becoming an entrepreneur has been an incredible journey in self-discovery, and she firmly believes that the hustle is real. eiADVANTAGE is quickly becoming positioned as a leader in the emotional intelligence training space for blended learning programs using assessment, coaching, virtual and in-person training, and online courses. They're also the authors of the workbook, Emotional Intelligence, Your Foundation for Success, and EQ Connections, which is a virtual training series available through Multi-Health Systems Incorporated. It is so nice to have you here, Janice. So welcome this morning.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we have lots that we are going to cover today. I am so excited to dive right in. And Janice and I, we know each other as well through that same beautiful, amazing network at Royal Roads University with our certification for executive coaching. And Janice, I suppose we met in 2015, around there.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to have you introduced to you as my mentor coach during the program. And so you know lots about me very deeply back then in 2015. And I think that I was very blessed to have that arrangement with you, in particular because of your ability to go deep pretty quickly with people. So that was a very meaningful time for me.
Awesome. Well, that means a lot that you feel that way, that we had that wonderful connection through, what is, they say it's a life-changing journey, but it really is, because you don't know what you're going to go through that program. And so to hear that means a lot. And to also welcome you back after so many years to be able to share your story and celebrate kind of your journey and your path to get here. So I'm excited to learn more. So thank you. Well, we're going to go right to the beginning. So I would love to, as you introduce yourself to everyone, I shared your bio, but, tell us a little bit more about your passion for emotional intelligence and the opportunity that you saw when you created this business.
Right. So you are absolutely correct. My business partner, I did not know until I met her at the Royal Roads. We call it coaching school. And we, like every good student, we did our work, and then we found time to go and have coffee, or sometimes even something better than that. And we talked a lot about what the foundation of coaching really was, the theoretical foundation. And so we talked about what we're really asking people to do is draw on certain emotional skills to make decisions, to, understand themselves more deeply. And by introducing emotional intelligence as the foundation of our coaching, it would allow us to help bring insight in that way to people and be able to frame questions to help them develop emotional skills that may be underdeveloped for them. We all show up with a certain amount of emotional intelligence. Some of it's learned behavior. Some of it is things that we may just not be comfortable doing. And so we found by building our coaching programs around that foundation, it gave us really good theoretical foundation, and also started to build our niche.
I love that. So you already knew, I think, about emotional intelligence before you even got into Royal Roads. Is that right?
Yeah, so I had been working before. This is what I call my encore career. So I did have some years of work experience under my belt. And of course, Haley is an academic. So she came at it from really that theoretical part, like what is it we're trying to do as an educator, right? And so, yes, emotional intelligence was not new to me, but after 7, 8 years, I know a whole lot more about it than I knew when we first started. So when you start about early days, there was a lot of learning.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so who did you, when you started out, you said this became your niche. Who did you originally think that you were going to serve with emotional intelligence? And is that the same niche that you have now?
Yeah, I mean, like every new business, we sort of threw paint at the wall to start with because we didn't know what was going to stick, right? And so we started to approach people around the coaching and did some coaching without tools and additional resources. But then we really started to dig into this one area and start to brand it out. So definitely we learned, we did a lot of reading, we attended a lot of programs. I mean, thank goodness for social media, internet, YouTube, self-learning. We did a lot of that.
And then you also now have quite a platform of ways in which you reach your target niche. So what are some of those ways? Can you share with us like some of your favorite ways in which people come in and find you?
Yeah, so I'm always very careful when people see our organization that, it didn't start this way, right? So I want to be really clear that when we back it up, we didn't have the product diversification we have now, but we knew that you need various different income streams, right? So coaching definitely was one. We felt there's value often with the combination of coaching and training, because a lot of times when we're working with new leaders, when you're asking them to help discover their authenticity, who they are, sometimes they were looking at us saying, well, I don't even know what being authentic is, right? And so you're really getting into that combination of, okay, you need some training and you then need the coaching to really help you make it your own. So that's what we started thinking about. Can we enhance some of our offerings to include a training component, which has, of course, since COVID, morphed into more digital offerings, right? And then morphed into some publishing. So what we've tried to do is keep the brand emotional intelligence, which means sometimes we have to say no to things, right? Which isn't easy to do, especially in early days when you're trying to make money, right? But really start to drive things towards what we want it to be known for.
So that it just sounds really intentional that, COVID helped the situation for all of us, I think. But, it's very an intentional journey that you want to take, and you saw that there would be some training that would kind of supplement and further maximize the results for your clients.
Yeah, and also help build out the package. This session is about, it's okay to make profit, right? It's okay. So when you start your coaching arrangements with someone, when you can start supplementing your packaging with, maybe you're interested in purchasing our book, maybe you're interested in purchasing an e-learning program, maybe you're interested in this, right? You can start to build out that offering and then it helps to bulk up, your ability to earn more income.
Got it. And so when you think about, the type of coaching services that you offer, what's the typical path, I guess, through that?
Right. So, another lesson learned early days, and I remember this fondly. It was really a time of discovery for me because I had done things in my previous career. I was a vice president of HR and corporate services with a large international organization. I had done big things. And then all of a sudden I'm showing up and I'm here to be of service to people in a coaching capacity. And I'm looking at my husband saying, like, can I even do this? Like, I don't know. Right. And he's like, you're nuts. Look at all the other things you've done. Right. but none of that mattered. There was that self-discovery and reset for me to make sure that I would get good at it, right? And so I think that being able to clearly define get more information to clearly define what I was exactly offering, having some good mentors. And I'll never forget the accountant that helped me as the mentor. And he just looked at me and said, "What are you going to charge for this?" Right? Well, I was so busy making sure that what I was describing was going to be appealing and make sure that, it was going to meet the mark and be acceptable in terms of a market offering. And he just says, like, "Tell me what you're going to charge." Right? And I gave him a number and he went like this, "Move it up." Right? And so there was this limiting belief, even though I had done all these things, that, I was stepping into this space that I wasn't an expert in. And so that was some things that we had to move.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great segue to the transformation that you had from coach to business owner. So there were some limiting beliefs that you overcame. What else do you think was the biggest shift for you moving from VP of HR to business owner?
Right. So it also, was about finding that team, finding that community. And, even though when we work in a traditional work setting, sometimes we think we don't like the people that we meet at the water cooler or whatever the case is, right? But really, they are your community. And so you need to build a community around you, like this program you're offering, for example, where you can get together with people who are saying, "I'm trying to grapple with this. I'm trying to move it forward." And you can have that shared experiences and share the challenges and share the successes, because, the hustle is real. It's like a building block, right? Every time you think you've accomplished one thing in your business and you've arrived, there's something else to do. And so you need that environment to keep energizing you and to learn from each other and just have somebody who says, "Keep going."
Yes. Yes. Oh, well, that really resonates with us because that's exactly what we've been discovering is that, every part of owning a business, there's firsts, right? It's the first big contract, or it's the first customer, or it's the first person who renews. And so there's a learning curve at each of those firsts. And then as you get scale, then there's first at, wow, I'm so busy that I don't have time to now market my business, or I don't have time, so there's first all along the way. And I think, what's so important is connecting with your why and connecting with why you're doing it. And so many times for myself, it's going back to, why am I doing this? Oh, right. Yeah. And then I move forward again. Yeah. And so having a network, having a community where people who are, raising your game, so to speak, is so important to keep you going, to keep you focused. You talked a little bit about, your accountant. We have to thank him. Your accountant who said, hire. How would you describe your money mindset, the money mindset it takes to be successful?
Yeah. So I think it relates a little bit to your values. So I am an individual that's very high in social responsibility, working in the community, not-for-profit, etc. Owning a business, you're in the private sector, right? Profit is okay. It's okay to talk about profit. And so I had to do some internal shifts to make sure I was comfortable, right, charging what would be an appropriate rate for services, right? And so many journeys around this one. As an early entrepreneur, I would lie awake in bed at night and I would think to myself, is this going to work, right? I had earned an income before. I moved away from that. You have family responsibilities. We have things that we have to do, all these real life pressures. And I was thinking about, man, I hope this is going to work. And I would stay awake at night. And then one night, something changed. And I woke up and I said to myself, what's your why? And part of my why was I never wanted to work for someone else ever again, right? For whatever reason, call it a quest for independence, call it a quest for wanting to make my mark in the world. I don't know, but that was the moment. And then I knew at that moment that I was prepared to do whatever it would take to make it work, right? And I started saying yes to everything. I started worrying too much about the rate. I had gained information around appropriate rates for professional services. So I had more information. I understood that. And I started saying yes. So if someone contacted me and said, will you come talk to this group of people? We can't pay you very much, because keep in mind, people often feel bad if they can't pay you very much, right? And I just said yes. And so the more I said yes, the more people I met, the more relationships I made, the more my confidence built around what I was offering. I was getting better at explaining it to people, right? And so it wasn't intentional, but I created this playground that helped me get better and more confident at it. But that to me was the biggest changing point, where I realized that my driver was I wanted to do something and make my own mark.
Yes, and I can see the connection as you shared that part of the story of before you made that realization and had that breakthrough, how that mindset must have played out in the decisions that you made, the rate that you selected, the way in which you communicated, and that's something that we talk about in the Passion to Profit Mastermind as well. It's like if we have, we start out front, like, what's the money mindset? Because if there's a money issue, it's going to show up and reveal itself in everything you do, keeping you small and keeping you, not moving forward in the way that you want for your business.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, my mind set has shifted, because I look around and I'm like, okay, people are spending money, organizations are spending money, individuals are spending money. Why am I not getting it? Right? So other people are getting it. They're happy to come forward and claim it. I believe that what I'm offering is sincere and of value to people. So yeah, I want my slice. So there's a bit of a separation between the emotional connection to money, right? And realizing that it is part of the business model.
Yes. And, I'm just going to call something out that I think would be beneficial for those on the call today, is that, I hear coaches. I've worked with over 50 coaches from Royal Roads across the last 10 years. And I've worked with many others outside of that. And something that I hear them say over and over again is that I don't know what to charge, because I wouldn't buy it at that rate, or I don't see myself affording that. And there's such an emotional connection to relating it back to you and what you say that I see over and over again. And the truth is, what I've discovered is people find a way to pay for it when they really want it. And you convey that value proposition, they'll find a way to pay for it. They will. And so, how to decouple that personal, like, well, I wouldn't afford to this, or my parents would think that's nuts, or whatever beliefs are, kind of stirring around, to disconnect that, and really just, know the market and be professional and offer your value to the world.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% correct. We relate things to our own personal situation, but we don't know people's, independent wealth. We don't know what's most important to them. We don't know how people make their other purchasing decisions. We don't know, right? And so when we enter the conversation confidently of what we are offering, right? Then we are basically putting something out there. We believe in the value. We've done our homework about, what's similar out there. And my favorite question at the end of it, once you made the ask or the pitch, was, this is what we do. How does that work for you? Right? And, if the individual is saying, well, I want to do it, but I can't pay it all up front. Can I do it in 4 installments? As trained coaches, we're trained to wait, right? And so sometimes people just need to process that they see the value, but it's the mechanics of how they need to purchase it, or whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's giving them the chance to present that to you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So I wrote that down. So this is what we do, and how does that work for you?
How does coaching question, right? How does that work for you? Right?
I love that it rhymes. That's really key. That's really key. Well, talking a little bit about money, but also business decisions. Like, how do you make the tough business decisions?
Right. So, there's lots of bright, shiny lights when you're starting your business. And as I said before, being focused on your offering and refining it. Once you have it described, then you're largely sticking to it. And there might be a little bit of blurring at the lines at the beginning, because, we need to get the income machine rolling, right? But what we do now is, we try different things. So we'll try different promotional ideas, maybe joining different associations, right? Becoming members in certain associations so we can go and meet people and network that way. And then we're very disciplined every year, every couple of years, to take a look at the list and say, okay, wait a minute, this is ballooning a bit, right? And we're not seeing the ROI in this particular association. Maybe I need to go try something else. Or in terms, for us in early days, it was important to make an investment with external social media, because that was an area that my business partner and I were not 100% comfortable in. The landscape was different to us. And so we made the decision to make a fairly large investment in that to get that startup going, right? Now we're revisiting it. The landscape of social media has changed. Is it still serving us? What do we need to do differently? So I think it's that continuous taking inventory and being really cautious that you're not spending your valuable dollars in the wrong area, and sometimes saying, no, we got to wrap that one up.
Yeah. Yeah. Continuous improvement and measurement. Yeah. So you're looking at what's providing the ROI to the business ongoing through your year. Yeah. Good. I don't know if you've had a tough time. It sounds like, there's been so much organic evolution and growth with your business partner. Yeah. But when times were tough, what did keep you going?
Yeah. So there is no such thing as overnight success, contrary to some of the stories out there. I often think of the Brené Brown story where she just arrived, right? And it's, everybody's like, oh, this is an overnight success. No, look how much research and training and things that she did to have that where she is now. I think that, when times get tough, it's about reshaping. Asking yourself the question, what am I holding on to that isn't really serving the business any longer? It's hard when you build a program or a coaching offering and it doesn't stick. And then you're like, oh man, I'm drained. I invested all this energy in that, but it didn't work, right? So it's about, making those hard decisions, but also taking that time to reset. I will often give myself an afternoon, plan something for myself, and just say, let it all go and don't think about it. And it's often in that time where you get out of your own space, shift the paradigm, get out of it, that you wake up the next day and you're like, okay, yeah, now I'm feeling better about things. I see things more clearly. So I think building in those appropriate breaks is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that quite often, building in those breaks, to do that, to give me space. I'm as you may know, an overthinker. And so I will ruminate on something and again. And so I have to find ways to disrupt the cycle, to think about things and kind of get some distance from it. As I always say to my clients, I said, hop in my hot air balloon and let's go up, 10,000 feet. Well, I have to do that to myself sometimes to just be able to see perspective and get some distance from the things that are happening day to day in my business.
I think, sorry, I was just going to add to Jessica, I think you make an interesting point there about our comfort level with risk in the early days. And I'm talking around risk of what you're putting out there. We want things to be perfect. We want things to be stellar, right? So you have to always weigh, is it good enough to go? Like, am I better to just go and start offering this? Or am I better to wait another 2 weeks and keep refining it, right? And it's different for everybody. My comfort level was, I was more comfortable to just go. Like, let's just go. We feel good about it, and we'll shift it as we need to. And, Haley being the academic is like, okay, we can do that, but we got to be on solid ground here before, cool it, because we got to make sure that what we've got is good. And so, you're always weighing that, am I better to wait or am I better to go?
Absolutely. And that's great, kind of advice, and kind of to keep in mind for coaches too, is that some coaches just wait so long, and specifically in the beginning, to get that website up, to overspend on that website and get all these pieces together. And the truth is, you just need conversations. Going back to what you said, you're in an association, you have a networking event coming up. You don't need a website. You just need to meet people. You just need to exchange what's going on for them. How can I help them? Is there a way we can partner together? Is there something you're going to learn from that experience? Versus, I need to have these 10 things completely tied up in a bow, and then I go to a networking event. Well, you're going to lose time there. So there's always this tension, being an entrepreneur, when something is ready, and knowing when to just go for it, and just get started. Love that. One more question, then we'll go to kind of our speed round. What's a success habit that you practice that helps keep your business profitable?
I think it's revisiting, where we're getting the traction, because you don't get traction on everything. And then is there really that revisiting? Is there something we need to drop or put on I call it the warming plate for a while? Because things have a tendency to come back around in flavor, right? So it's a matter of, sometimes it's about repackaging the same stuff, to be honest with you, right? But, once you get your messaging down and you're pushing it out, if it stops resonating, it's the same material, but it's the way you're presenting it. The world has shifted a bit, or there's some other environmental thing happening that you're not responding to with your messaging. So I think there's always this constant revisiting of what you have and freshening it up. But that freshening it up doesn't mean you need to start at ground zero. It might be some subtle shifts in what you already have that just gives it that extra little boost.
Well said. And playing the long game with clients, like the readiness phases of being ready for coaching or being ready to purchase a program. I mean, that can take months, even years. So, playing the long game of just knowing that people are still seeing your content, seeing you out there. You don't know what seed you just planted with them that may pop up, a year from now, and they come back and they say, like, I've been meaning to work with you, but I just now cleared my plate, or I just now, my children went off to college, or whatever it is, like, just now have the space to do the work with you. And so a key mindset shift is to welcome rejection. Right. So if I was rejected, I would go back and I'd be like, hey, what did I do wrong? Why did I not land this pitch? Right. It could have something entirely not to do with that. So when I get rejection, it's about not now doesn't mean not never. Right.
And so this mindset that I have around, I used to use a red light, yellow light, green light mindset. So red light would be, can't get in the door, can't talk to these people. Okay. Nothing's moving. Yellow light would be that, I've pitched it and I got rejected. So they're still on my warming plate, right? It's not never, it's just not now, right? And green is where you go. And once you finally get to deliver the work, it's exciting. It's people think, oh, aren't you nervous about delivering the work? No, it's been so much work to get it. I can't wait for it, right? So green is go. And then at times where you're not as busy, you go back and you take at your yellow light, you take a look at your red light, and you're like, okay, do I need to reconnect with these people? What do I need to do? And so that mindset really helped me to, if I'm getting rejection, that means they've thought about it. And so it's not now, but it doesn't mean not never.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm noticing about how you said that, there is such an intention to serve and such an intention to build long-term relationships here. This isn't just like, oh, it didn't work out. Okay, next. There's really, you're still caring for and kind of, having intentions around, maybe there is a way to help these folks who said not now. And I love that kind of thinking that, you're really in it for long-term relationships. Okay, so I want to turn it over to questions here in a minute. I've got a couple of speed questions, so just really quick answers that we're looking for from you. True or false, is the coaching profession saturated?
False. There are still more people than there are coaches.
Right. Oh, that's a good way to look at it. I love that. I love that. What do you wish every coach knew about coaching?
That people and organizations have problems, right? It is, that is what's going to keep coming. Problems are not going away. And so coaching is critical for that capacity building to help that next generation take it on or as people elevate. So I guess what I would want coaches to know about coaching is that it's not going away because people have got problems. Organization has got problems. Find a way to get in there and say, this is what I do, and I want to help you. Who can say no to that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the intention is pure, who can say no, right? I love that. What's one thing a coach needs to be disciplined about?
I was thinking about a quote that I used to, remind myself of, and it's Maya Angelou. And I think I would say this to coaches: do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Right? So, start somewhere. When more information arrives, take it in, reshape it, and then do better. When I look back at some of the content we produce, like in sort of year 1 or year 2, Haley and I also, we look back at it and we go, not sure that was that good compared to what we produce now, right? So it's, but we went with it and it worked. So when you know better, just do better.
And I think that is my next question: is what words of wisdom do you have for the next generation of coaches? When you know better, do better. Anything else to add to that?
Well, just to say, if you're not doing this work, who is? Right? This work isn't going away for the very reasons that there's problems out there. So, you're coming in and you're approaching this in a way that's going to help people remove their own limiting beliefs and be able to shift what needs to be shifted. And I think when we look around the environment of workplaces and individuals in today's world, it's about resilience. It's about moving things forward. Artificial intelligence is coming in. That's taking away a lot of routine jobs. So people are trying to find a way to collaborate and engage with people. And that can be very difficult, heavy lifting work. And so they're going to need someone who's going to ask them the questions to make sure that they're not holding back themselves and their organizations. So.
And, Janice, tell us what's next for you. What are you up to now in your business?
Right. So we COVID was a difficult time for all of us, but, with that, and that's the fun part of being an entrepreneur. When someone hands you a bag of rocks, you go and you put them in the rock tumbler, you try and make them shiny, right? And then you sell them, right? So with COVID, there was opportunity to receive funding. So we did launch an e-learning platform, which we're now including in all of our coaching packages. So that's really helped us drive our belief around this combination of coaching and training. You don't need both. I don't want people to think, oh, now I don't have that, so I can't do this. No, we didn't start that way, but it is something that we felt would be helpful in our programs. And of course, all of it is very specific to our niche around emotional intelligence. So we're interested in building that out and seeing if we can build that into something.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, I want to pause right there. We've got 20 minutes to go. Wow, we've just gotten a crash course in how Janice has grown and learned and overcome through her business journey. I want to turn it over to you all. So anybody who has a question, you can go ahead and come off mute and ask your questions for Janice about the early days, about her understanding ROI. I thought that piece was really stood out to me to continuously measure or evaluate, what's really bringing in business versus what is just something you're connected to. You don't want to let it go. Sometimes we have to make those difficult decisions. Who has a question for Janice today?
It's Joanne. I have a question.
Yes,
Joanne. Thank you.
Hi, Janice. You talked briefly about, social media before, and then you got outside help, and then you're constantly evaluating because it keeps changing. What has been, and this may have changed over time, the most effective tools or methods that you've used to attract new clients?
Right. So, social media is one of these things where you have to have some degree of it, right? So that's, and it's not everything, right? So the most effective way that we found that social media has helped us is helping our ranking improve on Google by producing content, right? And so it was the steady production of content that was what was going to help us. It wasn't that we couldn't produce content, but we were doing other things. And it was needing to be accountable to make sure there were 2 blog articles a month, to make sure that those were being posted on our website, to make sure we were tagging them appropriately. So I would say when it comes to social media, that would be the most important piece was getting content to help us raise up on the ranking. Otherwise, I would say that connection with people still so important. Depending on the focus of your coaching, we do work with individuals, we do work with organizations too. If you're working with an organization, no CEO or no HR professional is going to hand you a bag of money unless they have met you, right? I'd like to think that it's different, that they would, but there's going to be that connectivity. So, one of the things I did was to make sure I went to at least one networking event a month. Get it on the calendar. And if you're somebody who doesn't really like those things, it can be a bit of a drag. But you got to just get it on the calendar and get out there. Even if you spend an hour, you don't have to stay for 3 hours, but getting yourself to get more involved that way. So I would say those would be the two key ways in the early days that we built some business. And then it is true, the longer in business you are, the easier, well, easy is not the right word, but it becomes a little bit easier in the sense you start getting that churn. So you start getting referrals or you start getting repeat customers. So there is something to say about the truth of, they say if you can make it 5 years, you'll be good, right? It's because you're building up enough of a client base that you start getting that churn. Mm-hmm. Does that help, Joanne? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Great question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Good. Thanks.
Quite a good question. I'd love to hear how you are tracking your potential prospects as well as your current clients, because I think that's an area that I'm starting to see. I got more and more clients coming, and now it's like, how am I collecting all this? Or people that want to be maybe in 6 months from now a client of mine.
Yep.
How do I not lose that information? I think that's pretty key for people who are just starting out. So.
Yeah. So in early days, it was the old Excel spreadsheet, and I literally color coded it red, yellow, green. That was, my stoplight methodology. That's how I did it in early days. And now we use a really good software called pipedrive.com. And I think it's, relatively reasonable, like $20 a month type thing. And you can go and you can add all of your prospects in there. It's, a sales CRM type software, but it is reasonably priced. And then eventually we did connect it directly to our website. So with our contact information, so that if people, downloaded something, we gathered their information. And you can go in there and you can sort it and arrange email drip campaigns if you like whatever it is that you want to do. But I would recommend you take a look at that one. It's a good one.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, Arjuna.
Yeah.
Who else has a question for Janice?
I got 2 more if nobody has any questions. But,
yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on the pros and cons of working with a partner in your business versus going solo.
Yeah. So, it's fascinating, really, when you think Haley and I did not meet each other until we were at Royal Roads. And she would tell the story too. Keep in mind, work in the world of emotional intelligence. So I can self-declare fairly high assertiveness, right? And fairly high in emotional expression. So I'm good to go. I met Haley as she was walking through the lovely grounds, and I saw this person. And so I gave the old, hey, you, are you going to this course? Right? I didn't know at the time that she's highly introverted, and she's thinking who is this person? Right? So it was kind of a very interesting meeting. So after Royal Roads, I started my first business, which was to do one-on-one coaching. So it was Janice Gair executive coaching, right? And I thought that it would be big enough for me because I thought I'd done the big job and I'm going to do this and it's going to be great. And after about 6 months, I realized it wasn't big enough, right? The fire in my belly was like, come on, Jan, you can do more than this. Come on, right? So I contacted Haley and I said, what are you doing with this coaching stuff? And she said, nothing. And I said, well, we should do something. And here we are. So I think what works well for us is we don't play in each other's space. We have common goals around the business and we talk about them. But she is very skilled at curriculum development. She's very skilled at coaching. Her interest is really bringing emotional intelligence and coaching into the classroom. So very strong academic focus. And my focus is more corporate sector. I want to run the business. I want to be the face of the business. I want to be out in front of everybody. And she's like, I'm good with that. So I think the most important thing is that people are happy in their space, and that we can come together with that common goal in mind. I think when you get people that want to be in each other's space, it can sometimes be a little bit tricky. So, I think communication is the key that we've learned. She would laugh at me because every year I would make us hold an annual general meeting, and I would call it to order, and I would do the minutes, and we would review the financials, and we would do all these resolutions. And she's like, there's two of us. And it doesn't matter, right? Openness, transparency, this is how we have to do it. And so I think it's been those disciplines around the business side too that have helped us.
The AGM's a good write-off.
Yeah. If we can tack it on with delivering some work too, it's even better. So I love it. Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. What other questions do you guys have for Janice while we have her time? And I have one, maybe. Can I sneak in? So a lot of coaches new to business feel like they're sitting on a network. They have their existing network outside of their coaching training, and they're sitting on this network, and they're like, how do I engage my own network? I mean, I've got people I already know who may need my help. Where would you start with that?
Right. So one of the things that I thought was fascinating when I first started this work is I would meet with people, and I would tell them all the things I've done, sort of demonstrating my capabilities to do this. And I realized very quickly that they didn't care. What they cared about is, will you help me? I have problems. Will you help me? And so I think reconnecting with that network was about, this is what I'm doing now, and I'd love to connect with you and talk a little bit about it. Would that be possible? And people, 9 out of 10 times people are like, yeah, that's what you're doing now. What's that about? People are highly curious, right? And so it's about making that reconnection and establishing that foundation that this is where you are and this is what you're doing now, and giving people time to think about it. And making sure you have those touch points in that, can I revisit it with you in a few months? Could you think about how this might be helpful to you? Think about how this might be helpful to your organization. Am I on the right track? What are you seeing internally? And because you're skilled with coaching questions, you roll them into that interaction. You roll them into that prospecting, into that sales pitch. And so that's one of the lessons I learned, is just to do that reconnection about saying, yeah, I'm doing this now, and I'd really like to talk to you about it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. Who else has a question? We've got 8 minutes to
it's
go.
Joanna got one. What's been your biggest surprise? Good or bad?
Yeah, I love that. I think it might come to these limiting beliefs of where, when we pitch something, and I still see that accountant go like this, right? I'll never forget the coffee with that guy. It was fantastic, right? But it's my biggest surprise is when I look at what I've prepared and I pitched it, but before I pitch it, I've looked back and I'd say, add 20%, right? Add 20% and pitch it, right? And the surprise is it comes back and says, we're good to go, right? So, because my limiting belief is that I might be over pitching, right? But the surprise is you're still under pitching, right? So I think that has been the biggest surprise and learning for me, is not to underevaluate the value that you're bringing to an interaction. And people will tell you when it's too much, right? And as this kind accountant always told me too, is it's easy to go down, it's harder to go up, right? Yeah. So Yeah. So there's lots of ways to manage that, and finding out from people like, I want to do it, but it's a bit high. Okay, well, what about it? We can reshape it, right? It's about reshaping level of effort with what you're delivering or whatever. There's lots of ways, but you just want to get them to the table where they're ready to talk to you, and you're showing up saying, we can sort that part out because I want to help you with your problems. That's what I want to do.
That's a really nice word, reshape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good question. Anyone else? We haven't heard from Lori. Lori, are you have a question for us? You can also type it in the chat if you're unavailable to be on camera.
I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Lori. Arjuna, did you say you have another question for Janice?
Have any questions? It's not a crazy long one, but love to hear. You mentioned your e-course as part of your course offering. Sorry, your coaching offering. What are your coach offerings? Like, is it 3 months, 6 months, or do you streamline it and just have one option? But I personally had like several options, and I found it to be almost too much. So I've once again streamlined it down to just a couple of options, right? So I'd love to hear what you are doing.
Yeah, there's lots of literature out there around marketing and sales around the paradox of choice, right? Too many choices, people can't decide. There's a reason why when you show up on a website and you can have our bronze package, our silver package, or our gold package, right? There's only 3. And then it'll say most popular is the one in the middle, right? They're not making that stuff up. That is psychology, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather be recognized as a gold person than a bronze person, right? So there's lots of things that play there around marketing. So yes, I think well-crafted packages and having less is probably better than having 10, right? With the option to customize, right? That's the other thing we say. So we typically have 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then we have, or the opportunity to customize. And so when we're doing work with organizations, and let's say we're having 20 leaders come through, right? You start, doing the math on this, it gets very large and costly for organizations. So we'll switch it up and say, what if we did assessment, we did some training, and you gave each of your leaders 5 coaching sessions with the option to have 3 more, right? For those who are really engaging on it and are finding it of value. And so then you start running the math that way. And, they're then able to offer packages to their people that are, relatively fairly priced for leadership development. And you're getting the benefit of the volume. Yeah.
Good. We have one more question from Lori on the chat is, do you have prices on your website?
We used to have prices on our website. And we've just since moved away from doing that. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, it's, people are curious about what it might cost. I would suggest if you're going to do that, you put a range, right? Because the key is you want to have the conversation with somebody. And so you might put a range of, typically our hourly coaching runs between this and that, depending on needs, right? And so that way you're at least going to have the conversation with the person. We found that the packaging has been more effective. When you start putting it to an hourly rate, it can sometimes appear a bit costly. So, but if you say, I'm going to be available for 3 months and this is the rate with a minimum of X number of sessions, then it seems to resonate better with people.
Yeah. People will always, by the way, even when you do the package or program pricing, people will always still try to calculate your hourly rate. You really can't get away from that. That's just how it's like the old phone book and call somebody up to, it's this whole paradigm of just how most people are trained to think about how much something costs. But I love the pricing range. I tend to work with people who like to see more information. More is better. So I tend to post my prices on there. I also help qualify leads and ask them, would this amount be too much for you? Would this amount be a hardship for you? And help gauge where they're at on that spectrum of affording which program that I offer. Yeah. Well, we are at time. I just want to say, wow, we've got through you have so many parts of your business that I think we're all just like, wow, this is so fascinating how it's all come together. I really, really want to thank you, Janice, for your time today. It was a pleasure interviewing you and sharing and learning from you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. And I'm excited for all of your clients in this program and the folks that have joined today. Go and do it. Go and do it. That's my encouragement for you. And if you go and do it and something doesn't work out, you'll pivot and you'll do something else. But believe in yourself, and you have a lot to offer. And the work that we are all doing, if we're all really good at it, there's going to be more work for everybody.
Yes. Yes. And you have so many people out there who are experiencing good coaching, and they're going to want more good coaching. They're going to want to try somebody new for coaching to get to their next level. So I see the ripple effect of coaching in the years to come. Thank you so much for your time today, Janice. This was lovely. I put your details in the chat. We've also got this slide that I can share with you. Does everybody see that there? Got that there. And join us for our next Coaches Showcase. We're going to feature Arjuna George on October 26th, coming up next month. And so you're all invited to stop in and see that. The replay for this recording will be available soon. And when it is, I'll let you guys know. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed today's Coaches Showcase. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Yes. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.